Hey, good evening. It is April 2nd. Man, we got a lot to talk about tonight. Hey, really appreciate everyone last night. Had a lot of fun. Thanks for the laughs, the Bitmojis I got all night. That was fun. So a lot to talk about. Tag your friends. We are going to be discussing Jay, welcome. Paula, welcome. We're going to be discussing the 7A, 7B loans that we did the other night, but some new information, definitely some misunderstanding and misconceptions. And with the number of questions I got since then, it doesn't sound like I did a very good job of explaining it. So I'm going to touch on it again tonight and just touch on a couple of things. Karen, welcome. Guys, make sure you tag your friends. Karen says welcome. And get your friends who are own businesses, get them on here. Quick discussion tonight. Again, April 2nd, 8 p.m. Central every night. Time to get a haircut. Good thing my wife cuts hair. I just got to find time in between the 5 kids and their homeschooling. So welcome, everybody, tonight. Hope everyone's doing well. How are you pivoting through this? We're going to be talking 7A, 7B. Yeah. 7A, 7B loans. We're going to be talking about that tonight and discussing it. So for all my Master Network friends who are in the house, make sure you tag your friends. We're going to discuss this. And if you have a question tonight, make sure you put it in the comments and I will address as many as I can. And we'll do what we can to address the comments and get those. I've also got several new documents to share with you for those of you who've been on the 7A, 7B SBA loans. And there he is. Gary, you did get beat, by the way. Someone beat you here, but Texas North always in the house. Sarah says, ready to get some clarity. Hearing mixed messages. Yes. So I'll do what I can to sort through that the best that I can. Make sure you tag some people who need to hear this tonight. We got a lot of stuff to discuss. Present for roll call, Corey says. Hey, guys, really appreciate the fun we had last night. Appreciate all the Bitmojis I got. And I figured out my Bitmoji, sent it out, got it to a few of you. So here we go. Tanya, Perry, welcome. Make sure you tag some people. Let's get them ready for tonight. I've got literally, and I'll share this with you. I went to the SBA website, and hang on, I'll tell you, it was also, the SBA website. I will share with you some stuff I found on there. Nikki, Lynn, Ricardo, welcome. I will share with you some of the things I found tonight on there. And after talking to several people today, what we got. And some of this comes from my friend Sarah, who unfortunately could not make the call tonight. She has a child with a fever and not feeling well. So I wish her the best. She's going to join me next week, assuming all goes well. But she sent me some more information. I will be sharing that with you. Now, remember, let me put this up on the screen. I'll do it this way. Guys, if you remember, on the left-hand side is the 7A or the PPP, which has not been available yet. And on the right is the 7B, SBA 7B loan, or otherwise known as the EIDL, the Economic Injury Disaster Loan. And I am going to be talking about each of those tonight. I'll leave that up on the screen just for a second. And Richard says, good evening. Welcome, Richard. Duke says, evening, y'all. Julie, Houston region is here. Thank you, Julie. I know you had some questions as well. So there was a lot of questions that came up, and I want to clarify several things that came up last time. So please make sure you invite your friends here to understand what's available to them. All right. So let me just go really high level, and then I'm going to go into some details. And we heard some great things this week that can really, really help. So let me go back to this screen right here. And let me put this up on the screen. So again, let's just talk about this for a second. On the right-hand side is the SBA 7B loan, which is the EIDL. I would encourage you to go to this on the SBA. It's available to apply right now. I did this myself 2 nights ago, and here's what I want you to know: is you can see up there, and I got this from my friend Sarah. She shared this with me. I love it. It's a great little graphic. But on the right-hand side is what I'm talking about first, EIDL 7B. You can use this for payroll, fixed debts, accounts payable. Really, to look at it this way is the right-hand side you can use for payroll, but I kind of look at it like I would apply for both if you need for payroll. And I'll talk about that in a second. But on the right-hand side, I would use that to use that for like your operations. Now you can get up to $2 million. It is a loan. It's at 3.75 interest rate for small business or nonprofits. It's a full percent lower. It's up to 30 years. Now, none of that is eligible for forgiveness. So it is a loan. However, there is an advance on this of $10,000 that is forgivable if you're denied. Okay. So did you hear what I said on that? Even on the EIDL or the 7B, even if you're denied, you're going to get a $10,000 advance. Everything we've read, that's what it shows. You'll get the $10,000 advance. Okay. That's really important in there. In fact, let's see if I can find the page I was looking for here on the website. I'll share this with you. Let's see if I can share this page. No, unfortunately. But it's a $10,000 advance on that. Okay, so I would use that and look at it for operations. That is already available. So go apply for that. Okay, now somebody said, what if I have multiple businesses? Well, you need to decide. Like I'm a partner in multiple businesses. There's one business I looked at today. I literally have almost no operating expense on it. I have some payroll expense, but almost no operating expense. And we're really not impacted by that. So I've just chosen not to do that. I don't really need it. And I don't want to take it from somebody that really does. That's just my opinion on that. I'm not saying good or bad. I'm not going to take it on that one. Now, there are other businesses I have where they're slightly affected right now. They're not terribly affected, but those businesses have been, but they may be in the future as I look at how things are going. And so I'm going to go apply tonight on the EIDL again for those businesses as well. Okay. Now I applied today, I think is day 3. I haven't seen anything, no emails as of right before this and no funding on that. I'm hoping that tomorrow, at least the $10,000 advance so that I can share with you guys what I start to see, because I know I was pretty early in the game and getting into that. And some of you even messaged me today and say, hey, I'm still thinking about doing this. So let me put some of these questions on here that I'm getting. Gretchen says, does anyone have the list of approved expenses for the advance that are forgivable? Yes, I'm going to get to that. Well, same question for the PPP loan. Let me just tell you though, Gretchen, let me put this back on the screen to answer your question. Okay. The EIDL or the 7B on the right, okay, that is not forgivable. It is a loan unless you are denied, which is what Sarah just asked. If I'm denied the SBA 7B or EIDL is what I'm talking about. If you're denied that and get the advance, do I need to pay that back? No, it's a grant. You do not need to pay that back. If you get approved, it's an advance on the loan. Okay. So to your point here, Gretchen, your question is, what are the approved expenses? Well, so here's the point. They're these expenses up here on the top, on the right, payroll, fixed debts, accounts payable, and other expenses that can't be paid because of disaster's impact. Those are what those approved expenses are, but it's not a forgivable loan. So you can track those, and I think you can get some tax deferring things, but you can't use it to go. You can't go do it to market your business, that kind of thing, right? So hopefully that answers. Now, the same question you had for the PPP loan, that is very important what you use those expenses for to get forgiveness. And I'm going to talk about that in a second. Craig, Melinda, Corey, welcome. Gretchen, I hope that answers your question. I hope that gave you some clarity. If not, keep asking and I'll see if I can get to the root of the question. Okay. So I want to share with you though, because you can go apply for that 7B loan right now on the SBA website. And I would encourage you to do that. You can go do that right now. Welcome, Denise. Now it says you should get funding within 3 days. there's a little caveat to that. It says upon successful approval. Now, originally it had said within 3 days, but now it says 3 days within approval. So I don't know if that, because I noticed that was added. I don't know if that's a little catch-all now, because people were like, hey, I applied and I didn't get approved, or I didn't get my advance and it's been 3 days. So just understand that. Welcome, Victoria. Roger. So like Roger, you'd be a great business. I would for sure go after, in fact, most on here, if you were an operation, I would go after that 7B loan for mostly for operational expenses. And you'll see why on the 7A. So let me go through Gary's got a question here. He says on the PPP, it says you must apply through an approved SBA lender. Do you need to bank with the approved SBA lender? Great question. So I spent quite a bit of time talking to some banks today about this. Even they are still not sure. And the SBA is hoping to launch this 7A program, which I'll put up on the screen, which is on the left, the PPP, Paycheck Protection Program. They're hoping to launch this tomorrow. I know that some banks are not prepared yet for tomorrow. They're hoping that overnight some of the questions that they have on approval process and all of that stuff goes through. No, you do not have to bank from what I've been told, but Gary, I cannot answer that with certainty because the banks could not answer that with certainty. What they did tell me, to your question here, Gary, what they did tell me is they said you should just probably, to be safe, go through an SBA approved bank that you are a client with, because that will streamline the process. So let me just go to Kevin's comment here, and then I'll go back to, by the way, guys, I love the interaction. Love your comments on here. Kevin, you and I were talking today. If you're approved on the EIDL and you receive the advance, you do not have to repay the $10,000 advance. No. You also have the choice of whether or not to take the loan if you do get approved. That is correct from everything I've read as well. So let's say you get approved for $30,000, let's just say, and they send you the $10,000 advance. You do not have to take the other $20,000, if you will, as a loan. You can just not take it and just take the $10,000 advance. That's how I read it as well. So hopefully that just confirms what you were saying as well, Kevin. Okay, let me go back to the 7A. Let's just stay on that for a second. If you see, and Gretchen, I hope you're still on here because this was kind of your question. And I'm going to go through the actual language in the bill and just share that with you. But if you go on the PPP side, it's 2.5 times business's average monthly payroll is what you can qualify for. Okay. 4% interest fixed, no payments for the first 6 to 12 months. And then it's a loan and up to 100% forgiveness if you use it on these things up here. And you have to use it within an 8-week period, Gretchen. That's the thing. And it has to be on these items at the top left. Okay. So hopefully that, Gretchen, that answered your question. Richard Cole says, shared previous video that we did on Tuesday, I believe, with one fast food franchise and 2 real estate brokers. All were most appreciative of the information. Our sphere of influence is increased and blessed when we share facts. Yes, that's awesome, Richard. Thank you for sharing it. Nikki, I have information from my bank if you would like me to send that to you also. Yeah, you can send that to me. I will know that the SBA, I will tell you the SBA had a call today. So I don't know what information you have, but the SBA had a conference call today with many of the banks. And here's the thing. They still haven't sent out the terms. So if your bank has information on the term, like all of the qualification terms, it may not be accurate. They may just be trying to get preempted, right? Because a lot of banks are doing that because they're getting hit with so many questions. However, as far as like 6 p.m. this evening Central Time, I don't think the SBA had sent out to the banks yet what all of those qualifying terms are. So let me know exactly what you're going to send. I am. What do you think debt obligations means? Tell me what you mean exactly, because I'm also trying to hit all of these questions. Gretchen, just clarify a little bit. She says, U.S. Bank, FYI, is trying to get the PPP deal set up. Yes, all of the banks are. In fact, many of the banks this evening were kind of saying they're not even going to do it till Monday just because they think the SBA needs the weekend to get them all of the terms set up. And they technically have 15 days from the bill passing to be able to accept these. Where should I send it? You can send it to my email if you have it. If not, send me a private message here and I will Gretchen, on the list for approved expenses. Wow, you guys, the questions are coming in so fast. I'm trying. So on the list of expenses, let me put this back up here. And in fact, you know what, Gretchen? I think to your question, when I go through this document, I think it may help clarify that. And if it doesn't, re-ask your questions again and I'll make sure I get it. Kevin says, and it's up to $10,000 for EIDL, not guaranteed from my understanding. Clarify what you mean up to $10,000. Up to $10,000 for the grant. It actually says on their website right now that it's a $10,000 advance. As far as I'm aware, it doesn't say up to $10,000 advance. The advance is there, and I'm not sure what you mean not guaranteed from my understanding. It is on a first come, first served basis. I do know that. Any time frame on using the EIDL funds? Yes and no. Okay. I'll share that with you in just a second. So, okay. So here's what I'm going to do when I'm talking about this right here on the PPP side, because again, remember on the EIDL, that's already available. You can go on. I've already applied. It took about 15 minutes. Julie, the application for, if anyone could, while I'm doing this, go to the SBA website for the EIDL application. I was going to have that again, and I didn't grab that ahead of time. If you could, and post it in the comments as a link for Julie. Julie, you guys should go right now and hit that application. Some did it the other day, like right while. I'm going to send this to you guys really quick. All right. Okay. So if somebody could put the SBA 7B application in there, that would be awesome. Thank you, Victor. Victor's got it right here. Okay. Should be in the comments as a link. Victor's on my Master Networks page. I'm also doing this live on my Chaz Wilson business page as well. So if you're on that page, go to the Master Networks page. Or if somebody's on the Chaz Wilson page, you can post it there as well. Okay. So let me, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to try to share my screen on this right here. Let me see. You guys can see this? Yes. So let me go back. I'm going to go to, this is the actual bill, but I'm going to show you something that's really powerful in here. If you see on page 5, it says, what do borrowers need to know? Am I eligible? Okay. You are eligible for a PPP loan if you have 500 or fewer employees whose principal place of residence is in the United States. And it goes through some of these, and it says you are a small business as defined by the SBA or a tax exempt nonprofit. Okay. You see that there? But then let's go down to bullet point 2. The other qualification is you are in operation on February 15th of 2020 and had either and you had employees for whom you paid salaries and payroll taxes or paid independent contractors as reported on a Form 1099 miscellaneous. But the next paragraph is just as important. You are also eligible for a PPP loan if you are an individual, right here, individual who operates under a sole proprietorship or as an independent contractor or eligible self-employed individual, and you are in operation on February 15th, 2020. Now, you may have to submit some payroll documents, tax filings, 1099, income. They're like really making it broad for you to qualify and trying to make it as easy as possible in some ways. And then it goes through some disqualifications that are potentially there, like if you're operating illegally, some of that. I'm going to go to page 8 right here. How do I calculate the maximum amount I can borrow? Now, I learned something by reading this that I hadn't seen a lot of people. I've seen some things floating around, but I hadn't seen a lot of people touch on this. Welcome, Darlene, Ryan. Okay, so page 8 is really important here. How do I calculate the maximum amount I can borrow? And remember, this is for the 7A PPP loan, the payroll loan. Okay. The following methodology, which is one of the methodologies contained in the Act, will be most useful for many applicants. Step 1, aggregate payroll costs, which is defined below, and it's pretty simple. It goes through what your payroll is from the last 12 months for employees whose principal place of residence is the United States. Step 2, subtract any compensation paid to an employee in excess of an annual salary of $100,000 and or any amounts paid to an independent contractor, sole proprietor in excess of $100,000. So if you have any employees who are compensated and their salary is $100,000 or more a year, you have to take their salary out of that. Okay. Calculate average monthly payroll costs. So now you have the average monthly payroll. Divide the amount from step 2 by 12. So now you get the monthly payroll cost. Then multiply that monthly by 2.5. Now here's the cool part. Add, I had not seen this. Add the outstanding amount of economic injury disaster loan, the EIDL, less any amount of any advance under the EIDL, because it does not have to be repaid. And then it gives you a couple of examples here. So let's say you have no employees that make $100,000 and your annual payroll is $120,000. Your average monthly payroll then is $10,000 because you've divided it by 12. You multiply that by 2.5 gives you $25,000. So your maximum loan amount is $25,000. Make sense? That's example 1. Example 2, some employees make more than $100,000. And the annual payroll is $1.5 million. Subtract compensation amounts, okay, in excess of annual salary of $100,000. So this says now $1.2 million. Okay, so your average monthly qualifying payroll in this scenario is $100,000. Multiply by 2.5, so now it's $250,000, and your maximum loan amount is $250,000. Okay, now stay with me because these other 2 examples are important. Example number 3, you have no employees that make more than $100,000, but you have an outstanding EIDL loan of $10,000. Okay, annual payroll $120,000. Your average monthly then is $10,000. Multiplied by 2.5 is $25,000. You add the EIDL loan of $10,000 because it does not need to be repaid back, $35,000. So your maximum loan amount is now $35,000 you can go after. You see that? Same thing for example 4. In this one, they just say the sum of your employees. So you go back to that previous example, some do. And now instead of $250,000, you can add the $10,000 and it's $260,000. Welcome, Teo, John, Reed, Veronica. Okay, so that's some of how, right, you can, that's some of how you can calculate the amount that you are eligible for. And then it goes through what qualifies for payroll. Okay. Can I apply for more than one PPP loan? No, you cannot. What's the maturity date on the PPP loan? The maturity date, according to this, is 2 years. While the Act provides that a loan will have a maximum maturity of up to 10 years from the date of the borrower applies, the administrator, in consultation with the secretary, determined that a 2-year loan is sufficient in light of the temporary economic dislocations caused by the coronavirus. I'm not sure what that means. Sounds like on one hand they approved 10 years, up to 10 years, but on the other they're saying only 2. So I don't know exactly, guys. I can't answer that one for you. Is the PPP first come, first serve? The answer is yes. In fact, let me go back and I'll share my screen and you guys can see what I'm reading here. I am on page 13. This is right on the SBA's website. Okay. Is the PPP first come, first serve? Yes. When will I have to begin making principal and interest on my PPP loan? You will not have to make any payments for 6 months following the date of disbursement. This one's important. Gretchen, I think this was your question. So let me touch this one here. Can my PPP loan be forgiven in whole or in part? And I don't know how many more times I'm going to say PPP. I'm just going to call it 7A. I think every time I keep saying that, my little kids out here laughing. Yes, the amount of loan forgiveness can be up to the full principal amount. So remember, this is how you calculated it, was your payroll, right? So the entire amount can be forgiven. There's some stipulations though. The amount of the loan forgiveness will be up to the full principal amount of the loan and any accrued interest. That is, the borrower will not be responsible for any loan payment if the borrower uses all of the loan proceeds for forgivable purposes described below and employee and compensation levels are maintained. Okay, so the actual amount of loan forgiveness will depend in part on the total amount of payroll costs, payments of interest on mortgage obligations incurred before February 15th, 2020. Guys, did you hear that? Payments on interest on mortgage obligations if you own the building, rent payments on leases dated before February 15th. So I can use it on my rent for my building. I talked to a couple of my partners who are renting office space at co-working space. You can use this for your rent. And utility payments under service agreements dated before 15th. Over the 8-week period following the date of the loan. This is so important. You know, I've talked to probably 5 or 6 people, okay? I've talked to 5 or 6 people who are like, look, I'm going to take the loan. I'm going to kind of put it in my savings account because my business is down a little bit, but not a lot yet. And I want to keep it there for savings. That's a mistake, okay? Because you have the 8-week period in here, as it says, to use this and use it for those appropriate allocated purposes for it to be up to 100% forgivable, okay? That's really, really important. So let me go back to this. Okay? So, however, this is important. However, not more, if you see the next line here, right there. However, not more than 25% of the loan forgiveness amount may be attributable to non-payroll costs. So what that means is you can't have 50% of this be utilities, rent, or more than 25%. Utilities, rent, mortgage interest, loan interest. 75%, more than 75% has to be to payroll. They're trying to use this for payroll, okay? You can continue to go through this, and it talks about this, right? 75% of which is equivalent to 8 weeks of payroll. And it goes through this in depth. If you want access to this, you can see right here at the top, it's at the SBA website. It's right, I pulled it right off their website, okay? So it's a lot, right? I get it. I get that it's a lot to learn. So here's how I would look at it. Let me put this back up on the screen for you so you can see this, right? This is what I would look at. The 7B is on the right-hand side. Thank you, Roger. Appreciate it. Roger says, great information. Yeah, if this is helpful, guys, give it some likes and some shares. Ryan says, any way to get that bill that you have? Yes, it's right on the SBA website. I went to the COVID-19 and it said, you know what? Give me a second and I'll find exactly where it was. I definitely clicked several links. It was like an overview, and then it was like what borrowers should know, and I clicked on that. This has been very helpful, very helpful. Thank you. Appreciate that. So if you look at it this way, Kayla, who's one of our members from Lubbock, was on the other night, and she said it this way, which I thought was great. If you look at the right-hand side, the grant, the advance of $10,000, or if you get it as a loan, look at that as operational, and then go for the 7A on the left-hand side and use that for payroll and rent. And if you used it that way, it should really give you relief in your business, to give you some cash to help you. And look, I think I don't know a business, quite honestly, that really hasn't been affected or won't be affected. And so you're welcome, Lee. Appreciate it. I would just look at this and go after the opportunities that are there for you because you've all been impacted. So the 7B on the right-hand side, you can go right now and apply for. I applied 3 days ago. Let's see. Stephanie says, thank you so much. Very helpful. We're on the SBA site and applying right now. Yeah, I think on Tuesday when I did this, I probably put 10 people on the SBA website applying for their loans. So let's see. Gretchen, sorry, I didn't see your question there. Are you interpreting these bills as being retroactive, if you will, back to February 15th? In other words, can you pay payroll back to that point? So it's not, no. If I understand you correctly, I don't think that's how it works. So you take the calculation that I showed you in the document, you get your monthly average payroll, times it by 2.5, and then any additional EIDL loan on it. Let's say it's $25,000. You can then use that for the next 8 weeks going on. The whole purpose of this is to keep your people employed, right? So it's not to go back and pay payroll. You probably have already paid that. I'm not sure what you're asking exactly there. But it's to pay for the next 8 weeks, and you need to use it in that period for it to be up to 100% forgivable. Hopefully I explained that to where it made sense. Steve Bray, is this in the back office? We are actually looking to put these videos in the university so that in the Master Networks University, you can go watch these again because so many people have asked for those. So we're working to download these from Facebook and then upload them into the university. Got it. Gretchen, I'm happy to at some point hop on a Zoom call with you, Gretchen, and maybe walk through your specific situation to help you. Ryan said he found it. You're welcome, Ryan. Any other questions on this? Kevin says, see your inbox. It's up to 10,000 on EIDL. What's up to 10,000? Tell me what you mean. Tell me what you mean it's up to 10,000 on the EIDL. Are you saying I need to go to my inbox? Probably, right? Let's see. I don't have it in my inbox, my man. So unless you put it in like Facebook or something like that, I don't have it in my email. So Kevin, Kevin, if you want to come on here live, I'll send you a link. You can come on here, and if you want to be on camera and share your thoughts. I'm not sure. I know you were looking into this today, so I'm not sure exactly what you're saying. Oh, could be less. Well, what do you mean? The advance could be less? The grant? Master Networks rocks. Great information. Thanks, Roger. I think what Kevin is saying is it could be less as far as like the grant piece, right? I think is what he's saying. Let me just see here. So yes, it does. It says are eligible to apply for an economic injury disaster loan advance of up to 10,000. So thank you for, I think that's what you're saying, right? So in fact, I'll share my screen again. Yes. So by the way, I do believe, Kevin, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, I do believe that has been an update because originally it was a $10,000 grant. In fact, I'll show you guys here. So what he's saying is right here, and this has changed. I will tell you, this has changed every time I go back and read things change. You can see it says of up to $10,000, right? Are eligible to apply for an economic disaster loan advance of up to $10,000. So I don't know. It's so hard to keep track of it. I'm just doing the best I can to study it all day, every day, so I can bring you guys the most up-to-date information. In fact, I will tell you that even some of the bankers and accountants I've spoken with, we have been talking, and I'll say, no, it says this, and this. And they'll say, no, it doesn't. And I said, no, it does. I have it here. And they're like, no, I have it here. And we're like, okay, well, which time-stamped one do we have, right? Let's see. After the 8 weeks, what happens? Employees have to be employed through June 30th to be forgivable. Employees have to be employed through June 30th to be forgivable. So what this is that and if I understand your question correctly, so here's the point. They're trying to help you not lay off people right now, especially during this sort of isolation piece. And so I think what they're doing is they're anticipating that people will be back to work. Things will be by, in the next 8 weeks. And so they're trying to, because if they don't, they'll flood the unemployment system and they don't have the funds there to do all that. So I think that's what they're looking to keep businesses going. Gretchen said, a webinar I was on yesterday talked about not double dipping. In other words, not to pay the same expenses out of both the A and B. Love to connect private message when you can. Thanks. You can do both loans, but I would suggest you not, because I believe too with the 7A loan, you'll have to have a dedicated banking account for this money. And then that way you can track everything that's going to payroll, rent, et cetera. So that's why I kind of said any money you get from 7B, I would use that, assuming you get 7A money too. I would also, so assume you get 7A and 7B, some sort of money, then I would use 7B for operations, 7A for payroll. That's what I would, In fact, Nikki just said it that way. I think Kayla recommended was payroll out of 7A and pay operations out of 7B, assuming you have money for both of them, right? So let's see. Kevin says it's not your fault, so it's changing. Thank you, man. That means a lot. I have literally been knee deep in this for 4 or 5 days, as much as I can, because I know so many of our members need this. Gretchen has stated Tuesday that in order to avoid the double dipping, to use PPA. Yeah, that's what I was talking about. You can double dip as far as you can get both loans. So just to clarify that. But again, if you qualify for 7A, this is a big one. And I've been hearing this, and I've had this through private conversations. Here's the point with 7A. Do not sort of store that in a savings account because your business is so right now and you want to put it aside. I've probably had 5 or 6 people tell me that. Do not do that. Use that money and keep your other funds set aside if you're going to do that. But use the loan money, the 7A funds over the next 8 weeks, and use them exactly for the things that you've been asked to use them for. So 100% of it can be forgiven. Carrie, welcome. Ryan says, just want to thank you for taking time and sharing this with the tribe. Yes, man, you're welcome. I'm happy to. I'm happy to answer any questions I can, right? Veronica says, trying to apply online, not finding the link to do so on the SBA.gov. If you go previous up, if you're on the Master Networks page watching this, someone posted the link. If you're on, you're on the Master Networks page. If you go up, the link was posted, Veronica. Now remember, this is for the 7B. Denise says, our local SBA suggests using PPP for payroll only. Yeah, I mean, you can use it for payroll. You can use it for rent too. Assuming we get approved for all of it, we're going to probably use it for rent as well. So Julie says, Veronica, see Victor's link above. Yes, he put it in there. Appreciate that. And guys, so here's the thing. Your banks, you'll have to check with tomorrow and see if they are ready to take your applications. I have seen some applications on the Department of Treasury and the SBA website for the 7A loans. However, I'm not sure that information has been disseminated correctly to the banks, because in all my conversations with the bankers, as of 5:36 p.m. tonight, they did not have the information entirely of what they needed to get for loans. So we'll see tomorrow. Some banks have already put on their website. They've already put on their website that they are not doing these until Monday. I've seen that. So I know you guys are messaging me, a lot of you. Use EIDL for operational expenses. Yes, covered that. Let's see. If you guys are going to comment, it would be awesome if you, I know some of you maybe don't want to put it on there, but some of you texting me, it's tough to keep track of all the comments coming in. So if you put them up here, let's see. Sarah says, is there the 8-week time frame for using 7B? No, because that's not a forgivable loan. So you can use that over, it's up to 30 years on that loan. If you have multiple corporate entities that are affiliated, do you apply for each one or group them together? So David, I would talk to your accountant on that. If they're owned, so here's the thing. When you say affiliated, that's interesting. They might be affiliated in their business operations, but they're separate entities. And as long as one isn't a parent company of the other, that would be kind of double dipping. But if they're separate companies, while they might do business together, for example, I'll give you an example. Master Networks, and then I have Wilson Leadership that does some of our private coaching, speaking opportunities, book publishing, et cetera, et cetera. While they're affiliated, they're separate businesses that have separate payrolls, separate everything. So yes, I'm going to file for both of those. But if like, here's an example where I'm not filing. So Master Networks owns Master Networks regions are separate entities, but the parent company filed. So I can't file for the regional entity. However, my partners in there, they can file if they have an entity. Does that make sense? Kind of complicated, but curious about 1099 businesses. Michelle, if you go back, or if you go to this, let me see if I can share. Let me go to this. If you go to this page right here, there is, where was the one I was just on? Shoot. If you go to the overview, there was a document. Ryan Burkeen, you were on here. If you have a link to that document that you had, because I've sort of payment protection, this might be it, loan information. Who can apply? You can go in here. One of these has a link to one of them has a link to that document that I had. One of them had a link to that document. So, and it talks about how 1099 self-employed, you can use that. So Kevin put a link in there too. Thank you. Duke says, so if you use 7A for payroll, you must use 75% of 7B on payroll too. Guys, understand that the reason why you have to use 75% on the 7A, you don't have to, but for it to be up to 100% forgivable, that's how you have to use those funds. So look at it this way. The reason why they're putting those stipulations in is because they want those funds. They're sort of handcuffing you in a way to ensure that you use this for payroll so that you keep people employed. That's on the 7A side, right? That's the reason why they're doing that. It makes sense. The 7B, there's not as much restriction per se as what you use it for because none of it's forgivable unless you get the up to $10,000 advance. Does that make sense? So the 75% only applies to the 7A. As far as I understand, Duke, yes. Okay. Julie says, are the 7B and the COVID-19 up to 10,000? Yes, that's what we're talking about, Julie. Yep. So here's the thing. You could get a loan on 7B. Like you might qualify for a loan on the 7B for $100,000. And then what they'll probably do is give you a $10,000 advance on that loan. That won't be forgiven because you got a loan. And if you take that loan, then you have $100,000 and you are paying 3.75% interest. I'll see if I can bring that back up again. Guys, I love these questions. You guys are just amazing. This right here, this is what I was talking about, Julie. Okay, I'll make it bigger. So on the right-hand side, right, that's the $10,000 up to $10,000. Kevin corrected me, and I appreciate that. And up to $2 million, 3.75, and up to 30 years to pay it. But here at the bottom, you can see 0% is eligible for forgiveness. So that's why it really needs to be used for these expenses, like other expenses that can't be paid because of the disaster's impact. Accounts payable. Guys, accounts payable is like anything operational for the most part, right? Like, so you have a lot more flexibility. You don't have the time frames to use it. You don't, because none of that is forgivable. The 75% on payroll and using it in the 8 weeks, that's only on the 7A side because that's the qualifications for it to be forgivable. Does that make sense? Okay. And Nikki is correct. There is information on the U.S. Department of Treasury website and compile information that will be necessary to complete the application. I pulled that today. I sent that to a banker. He wasn't even aware of that yet. So some of that getting to the banks is still not quite And she's got it there. I'm going to see if I can, because that's where I pulled it from. I'm going to see if I can share that with you guys. Home.treasury.gov. Yes, this is what I had earlier. So let me, so you guys don't have to go to that. I will share this with you right now. Let's go right here. Nope, sorry. Hang on. Wrong page. Wrong page. Technology, guys. All right, here we go. I got it. So here it is. So this is what it looks like. So okay. Here's proof exactly 100%. Here's proof exactly this is changing constantly. This Paycheck Protection Program interim final rule was not here 2.5 hours ago. So I don't even know what this is. Oh, they've now added what I was printing off right here. So they put this up here. Okay, so I don't even know if this has changed. But let me go back. Top line overview of the program. But here's the application for borrowers can be found here. So here's the application right here. It's actually very, and again, assuming this is what your banker is going to take, it's very straightforward, right? Your business legal name. I hope you guys can see this. Let me make sure. Can you guys see this if I put it up like this? Let me remove Nikki's comment. So you can see what's here, like business legal name, primary address, your EIN, contact. Now here you go. Your average monthly payroll is here, times 2.5 goes here. Number of jobs, meaning the number of employees that you have. What are you purpose of the loan? Payroll, rent. I would check all of them. I don't know why you wouldn't, just in case. List, oh, here's a question came up earlier today from somebody. List all owners of application with greater than 20% ownership. So if you have partners and they do not have 20% or more ownership, you do not need their information. They do not need to sign anything. You can do this all by yourself, right? So this is why I always preach about in business, try to have majority ownership, more than 20%, or not let anyone have 20% or more, because then they always have to apply on everything. And then you check a few boxes, you sign, and you're done. There's the application. Okay. I hope that was helpful. Roger says, Chaz, are you doing these lives every evening? This is great information. I've been doing lives, I think, for 3 weeks now, every night at 8 p.m. So, I will continue as long as, we keep getting people showing up and asking questions and I can provide information. I'll keep doing it. I have found the accountants in my region are willing to talk through your particular situation and give their thoughts. Reach out to your fellow Master Networks members. Well said, Sarah. There are lots of experts in your area. Well, let me put it this way. There are people who are becoming experts in this, because I found there's no expert. Even the politicians aren't sure, because it keeps changing. So I'm in no way an expert. I've been, guys, you can get this information. I've been reading it, talking to my friends in Master Networks who have also been reading it. Kevin and I were exchanging information. All right, David, let me ask you, let's get yours. Will they forgive the total amount that you borrow, regardless if you use it all? So there is some left over, or do you have to use it or lose it, pay it back, no left, or for some reason? That's a good question. So here's my understanding of that, David. Let's say I got to use a good number for math. Let's say I use 20,000. I get 20,000, right? That's the 7A loan I get, and I only use 10,000 of it for payroll, rent, et cetera, et cetera. Then my understanding is up to that 10,000 could potentially be forgivable, and then the other 10,000 would be converted to a term up to 2 years that I have to pay back, and that's my understanding of it. Again, I could be wrong on that, but here's the thing though. Because you're taking, could you clarify? So hold on. Let me get David's question first. So here's the thing. If you're taking 2.5 times your average payroll, then I don't know why you wouldn't use it for payroll, rent, et cetera, for the next 8 weeks. Like, the math makes sense. If you've got it and that's what you're using it for, why wouldn't you use it? I guess that's the question I'm trying to understand. Why wouldn't you use it and have it be 100% forgivable? Even if you already have, so here's the thing. Let's say your business hasn't terribly been impacted and you're like, I don't need all that 2.5 months to pay payroll. Okay, I can't tell you what to do with your money, but here's what I'm just hypothetically might do. Take the $20,000 you already have to make that payroll and put it aside and use the 7A loan, pay it over the 8 weeks and have it be 100% forgivable. And you've now stacked another $20,000 in that same period of time. Does that make sense? Like, why wouldn't you use it, I guess is the question. I'm not calling you out on that. I'm just trying to get some clarity around that. So Kevin says, could you clarify what they mean by the number of jobs on the application? Is this the average number employed at a given point in time, or was it W-2? I don't know that. That's a great question. It says, let's go back to it. What does it say? It says, let me go to the top. Number of jobs. I don't know what that means. I think that just means, yeah, the number of, why does it say number of jobs? Because a politician wrote it, probably. I would imagine it should say number of employees, right? Because that's what you're trying to figure out. I can't answer that one, Kevin. You stumped me. I mean, I assume it's the number of employees, or maybe it's the number of jobs that you have to fill. I don't know. It does, because that factors into the forgiveness formula at the end. How so? I'm not sure it does. Let me think that through, because you take your average monthly payroll, assuming you have no one that makes 100,000 or more, times that by 2.5, then you just have to use that. You just have to use that over the 8-week period on payroll and rent and utilities and everything. It doesn't mean you have to use it on the same amount of employees. What about subcontractors? Subcontractors is interesting. There was language in there, Ryan. You might want to read through that exactly on there and talk to the banker about that when you file for that. Yes, it makes sense. Payroll sometimes doesn't fall in an exact 8-week period. We do 2 times a month. We may adjust payroll for that period. Yeah, I mean, again, this is why you need to have, and I've always said, you need to have a couple people on your team, like a board of advisors. One of those is a really good bookkeeper and accountant. And if they're not the same, then you have a bookkeeper and an accountant, because that would be something I would discuss. I'm going to make sure that whatever I can get approved for on a 7A, assuming I can, honestly, I'm using all of it on payroll, rent, and utilities, and interest on any debt, which we don't have much. Then I'm going to use all of it in that 8-week period. So, okay. That was 53 minutes and 20 seconds of go time. So, was this helpful? Did you guys find this helpful? I'm sorry I can't answer every question. So Lynn says, if they are 1099s, wouldn't they apply? They're not your employees. So technically 1099 subcontractors can kind of be the same thing, but independent contractors are 1099. So subs, he may pay the sub. So for instance, I have 1099. I'll give you a good example. My accountant, my bookkeeper is a 1099 that we pay directly. So we are counting her in our payroll expense because I can include their 1099 in that income. Everything we read says I can include that. So JT says this is very helpful. Todd, very helpful. Thank you guys. Appreciate it, man. This is just awesome. I hope that this is giving clarity. I know I can't answer every question. I'm not an accountant. In fact, I'm not even that good with math. I would tell you my favorite math joke, but my wife always rolls her eyes, although she's not in the room. So you guys know that there's 3 kinds of people when it comes to math. Those that are good and those that aren't. And so for those of you who aren't sure what that punchline meant, I'll just wait a second. Somebody else can ruin it for you. I've always wondered if 1099s would be available. Yes, you can file. Go back and watch the beginning. He says Facebook inbox about number of employees. A reduction in the number of employees will somehow factor into the forgiveness. Meaning if I've laid people off, is that what you mean? All right. Yeah, some of you thought my message was good. Let me look up what you're talking about, because I do think that's an important point. Let's see. Let me pull this up here. You said see page 3 for forgiveness formula where it says reduction of employees will affect forgiveness. Yes, I think so. Here's the point. It does affect the formula for forgiveness, but I don't think it affects the formula for the amount that you get. Because I read through all of those, or I read through the 5 qualifiers for how you calculate the amount, and it doesn't say anything about the number of employees. It doesn't say that for the formula to qualify for the amount that you get, but it will based on the amount that you use it for and how much of that is for forgiveness. And I think we're saying the same thing, I hope. So, Julie laughed. Man, my day is complete if I made Julie laugh. That is awesome. Hopefully, Kevin, I hope we're on the same page for that. I don't think the number of employees in that. So, for instance, if I laid off 2 in the last 2 weeks, it doesn't affect my average payroll for a little bit. It will for the last 12 months. That helps me get the formula for the amount I'm due. But how I use that, then the hope is that I bring those people back, and there is some benefit to that. I've been reading through as well. So, guys, it's a complicated, convoluted mess. Here's the other thing. This doesn't solve all the problems, okay? And so if you're sitting there like, oh my gosh, like, come on, big money, big money. I'm gonna tell you something. Some of you are gonna be sadly frustrated and let down and so forth. So here's the thing. Now more than ever is the time to lean into your network, connect with your people, create new offers of value, right? I saw a guy right now. I mean, I wasn't smart enough to do this. He did a private Facebook group where he is going live every day talking about SBA loans, literally like probably half the stuff we're giving away for free. And you can pay $800 one time. And he was talking about how there was something like 400 people had already signed up for it. I'm like, that's $32,000. Yeah, I guess I'm pretty good at math. That's $32,000 that he just came up with to share the information. Well, first of all, we're giving it away for free, but like, that's crazy. But he came up with an idea that felt there was a need for, and he's serving that need. Julie says, I used to teach middle school math, so that's my kind of humor. Yeah, I know. My kids, if any of you guys know Dude Perfect, they like do all those trick shots and stuff, and they're from Texas, and they do this Dude Perfect thing. And my kids joke that like when I do a bad joke or I try to like do something cool like that, it doesn't work out. It's not Dude Perfect, it's Dad Average. And so one of my staff on my team got me a shirt that says Dad Average, and that joke was a very Dad Average joke. So anyway, hope you guys found this helpful. We're going to keep coming live every night, trying to bring as much value as we can. Kevin answered this. He says, yes, that formula just states reduction of number of employees during the 8-week period will factor in the reducing of the forgiveness. Yes, initial loan is not based on the number of employees. Kevin, you're spot on, my man, and really good at explaining it. Here's the thing. Mickey Elias is watching. Mickey caught us at the end here. Make sure you go back and watch this and reach out to me, because I've been thinking about you and your business as well and how this is impacting you. So, guys, look, there's a lot of people that need this. This will be a help. This will be a boost. Todd says, make sure you don't pay anyone for filling out that application. There are people who, yes, are charging for that. Here's what I'd say, Todd, to that. I don't think you need to pay for that because it was very straightforward and very easy. But if someone doesn't understand it, I'm not going to say someone couldn't pay someone to help them do that, because there are people that are there to help and offer that. So Kevin says, I'm an accountant. It's my job. Yeah. So look, Kevin, I think you're in Delaware region, right? Delaware region of Master Networks. If anyone out there in the Delaware, Maryland area needs an accountant, reach out to Kevin. He'll help you through it. So, look, if there's other topics you guys want to make sure that I cover, make sure you put them in the comments. I go back through, I look at those. If there's topics, resources, people that I can help bring value every night at 8 p.m. Central, that's what I'm here to do. And we'll keep doing that. Make sure you're diving into Master Networks University. There is so much in there right now, and we're continuing to add more value into Master Networks University. For those of you that run a chapter, I want you to watch next week for our new agendas that are coming out. We're offering some even more valued resources in your online chapter meetings. So make sure that you watch for that as well. So awesome, guys. Thanks for all the great questions, input, smart remarks, all that stuff. Oh, be careful. Hey, if you're doing Zoom meetings, I came across something we're going to be putting out today. Have any of you been trolled yet in your Zoom meetings? That happened to me today. So in your Zoom meetings for your chapters, be careful because, and Lynn says, the value of this network is priceless. You're welcome. Be careful in your chapter meetings. Here's why. We may have to go to Zoom meetings where you get a password to get in, because there's an app out there that I came across that someone told me about that it just randomly, like you log into this app and it randomly shoots these ID numbers until it hits one that's live. So they don't really even have to have the Zoom link ID number. It just is auto-generating these Zoom numbers. And then boom, it pops them in live into one. It's crazy. So it happened to me today. Fortunately, I was able to remove them really quick and block them. And you can use a password or a waiting room, and you should do that in your chapters. Okay, so Sarah says, thank you. Ryan says, thank you for all the info. You guys are welcome. For PPP, it's not legal to charge for services related to application unless they are listed as an agent with the lender during the initial loan process. Agents will receive 1% of the loan amount on loans up to $350,000. Drops after that. It's good to know, man. Good information, Kevin. Thank you for sharing that. Denise says, very helpful info. Guys, I just want you to know how much I appreciate all of you. It's the power of this network. People like Kevin and others who are sharing information. That's where this all comes from. And we're in this to win it together. Also be keeping online wedding crashers. Well, so here's the thing, guys. I'm just going to tell you, like, you can YouTube some of them. They're pretty funny. Sometimes people have a good sense of humor, and other times people just want to ruin your meetings. I'll tell you, I just appreciate this network, this group of people that shows up every night to be part of this. I'm honored that you'd give me an hour of your evening on a Thursday night. I appreciate hanging with you guys. It's been a pleasure to do these every night. I'm going to continue to do this as much as I can. I've got a few guests coming on that have reached out that I think will be tremendously valuable right now, and giving you some wisdom and some things. The other thought that I have is just make sure that you're not just relying on this, okay? Kevin says, thank you. Your videos have helped greatly. Appreciate it, man. Do not rely just on this, okay? Start to pivot and think about how can you do business differently. Some of you are very impacted. You know, Roger, you guys are impacted. There's others who are impacted. Talked to a hairdresser recently. They're impacted. Gosh, I mean, it goes on and on and on. A student, like a, gosh, why can't I think of the word? Like a counselor, tutor, sorry. But they can't do it online. They have to do very, very much in person with special education and stuff. They're impacted, right? So many people impacted right now that you've got to pivot. You can't just do things as normal. And yeah, so I'm going to bring you people that will help you consider how to pivot, how to do things. We are looking at a couple of ideas that we're going to be bringing to you. We may do, since Connect is until August, I've got some of the speakers who are willing to do like a 30-minute online summit on some of the things that they teach. how to do a podcast, how to do social media marketing, how to create an online workshop, just lots of stuff like that we may put together as an online summit. Kevin said, Duke said impacted. Do you go live at a certain time each night so we can follow? Yes, 8 Central every night. And tag your regional partner on here, man. Tell Bobby to be here and tell him to share this in the region. Every night, 8 p.m. Central, I'm on here on the Master Networks page. I go live. I've been doing this for 3 weeks. In fact, I think tonight might be the 21st or 25th, something like that, that we've gone live. So appreciate you guys. Have a good night. We will see you tomorrow. Make sure you tell your friends about this. I've got a couple of big guests coming on, you guys. We're going to blow people away who's coming on. Make sure then we get a ton of people and share this. They'll be blown away with who we've got on here. So, all right, everybody, have a great night. We love you. We're praying for you. Be well.